Oh, hello. Welcome to another video. Today we're going to have a big old sit and chat about the Adeptus Arbites kill team that's been confirmed, as I'm sure you know, and we're going to speculate about what that kill team may or may not contain. So first, just to cover over the confirmation part of this, I'm sure a lot of you have seen this as well already because it's been reported in a lot of places. So this is from the preview rules for boarding patrols that they posted on Warhammer Community. So for those of you that are not following 40k stuff, because maybe you only play Kill Team, the big expansion sort of series that's coming for 40k called Arcs of Omen, one of the things that we know is going to be part of Arcs of Omen is a new way of playing 40k called Boarding Patrol, which involves basically two sets of our kill team into the Dark Terrain pushed together and 500-point armies, 40k armies, fighting in the same close confines that we've been fighting in Into the Dark games of Kill Team. They've put out this document on Warcom, which kind of... It's hard to understand all of it because we haven't got the full rules for how you build an army for boarding patrols, but it kind of shows you how all the different sub-factions in 40k, how they modify the army construction rules, which, to be clear, we haven't fully seen, but how they modify the army construction rules for boarding patrol. So I'm sure this has been reported. Essentially, there's one section of the PDF, which I will link down below in the description if you want to see it, but there's one section of the PDF that deals with agents of the Imperium. So again, for those of you not familiar with 40k, when they have kits that they don't really know what to do with, but they want to give them rules in 40k and they're vaguely Imperial, they tend to give them the Agents of the Imperium tag. So Inquisitors, Assassins, the Navy Breachers, the Eucidian Star Striders, these are all things that have Agents of the Imperium. Okay, so when mustering a boarding patrol, if your faction is Agents of the Imperium, the following rules apply when adding units to your boarding patrol detachment, and they take priority over the mustering of boarding patrol rules, which, again, we haven't seen. All Ordo, which is the changeable tag for Inquisitors, all Ordo units in your boarding patrol must be from the same Ordo. If you include an Inquisitor, you can include Inquisition units, even though they do not have the Agents of the Imperium keyword. So Inquisition is a mini codex, and it was very, very hard previously to ever include demon hosts, Jacaro, and Inquisitorial acolytes in armies because those things didn't have this Agents of the Imperium keywords. You could only ever include them in a pure list. Anyway, I'm getting so far off point, but I feel like the background's important. You can include 3 Inquisition character models, but only one of them can be an Inquisitor. So what that's saying for the uninitiated is that you could have an Inquisitor and and 2 demon hosts, or an Inquisitor and 2 Jacaro, or an Inquisitor and a Jacaro and a demon host. In addition, then you can take acolyte units in sets of 5, and they are considered to be your troops. That's if you take an Inquisitor. You can always include an Officer Assassinorum model regardless of how many other character models that you can control, but it can't be your Warlord. So if your thing is led by an Inquisitor, you can have your Inquisitor, 2 other characters from the Inquisition stuff, and an Assassin. If you were having your leader be, I think the other option is to have it led by Euclidia Vane. I think she's the only other, the Rogue Trader, Little Squad, I think is the only other HQ character option that you could have instead of an Inquisitor, and then you can also include an Assassin, but then that'll be your 2 characters there. When mustering your boarding patrol, select one of the following units. Acolyte units, which are the inquisitorial little build-your-own troops guys that you can take if you take an Inquisitor. Navis Imperialis units, which encompasses for 40k both the Euclidean Star Striders, Armsmen, the Voidsmen at Arms, as well as the Imperial Navy Breachers, again from Kill Team. And then it says Adeptus Arbites troops units. The selected units in your army gain the objective secured ability. See the Warhammer 40,000 core book. So what they're saying is you have to pick a flavour, either Navis Imperialis, Inquisitorial Acolytes, or Adeptus Arbites, and whichever of those 3 you pick, they can count as objective secured troops. So what they're trying to do is let you build a list that's like all Imperial Navy mixed with Rogue Trader, or all Inquisitorial Acolytes, or all Adeptus Arbites. This is pretty cool. And it just for me, it really confirms what we talked about 2 videos ago with that silhouette that came out for New Year's. We are clearly getting Adeptus Arbites. I think we're clearly getting them for Kill Team. In much the same way, the Navis Imperialis is, again, it's 2 sets that came out for Kill Team being given their 40k rules. This Agents of the Imperium faction in 40k is where they put this stuff, and they're clearly using Kill Team to flesh out that Agents of the Imperium range. When forming boarding squads, don't split the Voidment at Arms units into separate units. I think there's some kind of reading between the lines. There's a generic rule where if everything's in a unit bigger than 5, it has to be split up, blah, blah, blah. We're not that interested in the 40k part of it, but I've started reading this, so I'll finish. Rules adaptations. If your faction is Agent of the Imperium, demon hosts get tweaked slightly. Jaqueros can deploy in places. Come on to this other highlighted part. If your boarding control does not include any character models other than Officio Assassinorum models, but it does include an exaction squad, you can give an enhancement to that unit's Proctor exaction model as if it was a character model. Now, this refers again to the Arbites, because Proctor is what we quite commonly call the unit leader in an Arbite squad. The terminology's changed a little bit in different iterations over the years, but in, I think, the 2nd edition Necromunda rules, the Fanatic Press ones, the leader of an Arbite squad was called a Proctor. So I think the Exaction squad is going to be like the full name for the Kill Team. In the same way that, it's not a Kroot Kill Team, it is a Farstalker Kim Band. They always have a kind of more woolly name. So I think it's going to be an Exaction squad is going to be like the full name for the Arbites Kill Team that's coming out. It's possible that for 40k, they do 2 data sheets. Like, I'm not saying it's definite, but if you think about the Eldar Corsairs, they wound up being split into a troops unit and an elites unit. So it is possible, if you really like Arbites and you want to use them in 40k, that when they come up with the 40k data sheets, they take the single kill team and they spread them out into like an Arbite squad on the one hand, which is a troops choice, and an exactation squad on the other hand, which is an elite's choice, which has more of whatever specialists that we end up getting. I don't know that. This is pure speculation. This whole video is pure speculation, except for this little screen grab. So, but either way, I feel confident saying that the 40k, the kill team will be called the exaction squad. And then it goes on to talk about how you can't give enhancements to assassins and Jaqueros and demon hosts. Enhancements are going to be like warlord trait type replacementy things, ways of customizing your characters. Assassin polymorphine doesn't work in the same way. Fine. So this has all been like Auspex Tactics. If you're into 40k, has done a whole read through of this whole document. Lots of other people have picked up on it from the kill team angle as well. The boarding patrol rules, I'm just going to touch on this before we go into the rest of the videos about Arbites, but just to touch on this, I will say the boarding patrol rules seem interesting to me, as someone that's not really played much 9th edition, in that, as a kill team player, I've got 2 sets of Into the Dark terrain, so I've got the terrain I would need to play this mode of play, and in fairness, I've probably got the models for 4 or 5 of the different armies as well. It would just be a case of picking up the new book for the rules, and I'd probably have everything I needed to play a game of boarding patrol. And a 500-point game on like a double-sided, a double-size Into the Dark table sounds pretty cool, actually. And for those people that are desperate for, like, I know that there are people out there that are desperate for Inquisition in Kill Team, and I would put it to those people that these rules, these Agents of the Imperium rules, are actually a better way of having that. If that is your power fantasy, you want to play as an Inquisitor, this is like leading a little 500-point force is probably a better way of doing it, because an Inquisitor, like, you could have Inquisition in Kill Team, and I kind of hope we get Inquisition in Kill Team one day, but it would be very much like Darktide, right? It would be a collection of inquisitorial, like, affiliated dudes, but actual Inquisitors are consummate badasses, and I think, personally, like, an actual Inquisitor running around is a bit too high-powered for Kill Team, whereas they fit in here, in Boarding Patrol, where they will come up against things like, Space Marine captains, right? They will come up against other things of their kind of appropriate, like, power level. because they will come up against the HQ level characters of the 40k armies, right? So I think you could have a lot of fun because there are no rules for acolytes, right? So you could convert your 5, 10, 15 acolytes, you could get your Inquisitor, you could have a lot of fun making like a 500-point boarding patrol Inquisition-themed army. If that's what you wanted to do, that would be a cool little hobby wrinkle. It's tempting. I've got so much on, right? I don't need another project. If I was to play this boarding patrol, I'd probably play Sisters because I've already got a lot of Sisters of Battle stuff. But it is tempting to do an Inquisitorial themed thing with all these little different things, and you can have Inquisitor with a squad of Arbites and all these different things. That's quite cool. It does seem like they're trying to bridge Kill Team into 40k. Right, because this is going to be so easy for Kill Team players to get into because we already have the terrain. I wonder if they're looking at the sales and going, look, Kill Team's doing really phenomenally well, but ultimately Kill Team players don't buy that much stuff. We need to try and find a way of kind of sucking those Kill Team fellas through to 40k. This is our way of trying to do that. So that's enough 40k talk anyway. This is a Kill Team channel. Let's get into Arbites. So the first thing I wanted to do was look at the models that we've seen for Arbites over the years. So in chronological order, the first 3 sculpts here in metal, the Adeptus Arbites with the bolt pistol and the power maul and the shotgun and the bolter here, those are from before my time. Those are kind of the Rogue Trader era Arbites, those 3. I do have some of the... I think of this sculpt knocking around when I was trying to order these, and I got sent some of these back in the day by accident. I wasn't really pleased with that, but there you go. And then these are the ones that are nostalgic to me. I think I have the grenade launcher fellow and the champion here with the shotgun somewhere in a dusty cupboard. It'd be interesting to see if I can find a way of using them in the new with the new. Oh, probably the new Kill Team stuff's going to be much larger, right? But this is such an iconic 40k model because it's so stupid with the like giant golden eagle on his head, but it is such an iconic and lovely looking model. The nice thing about Arbites is that they're kind of, if you ignore the Rogue Trader ones, their design really didn't change much from the sort of first edition Necromunda sculpts to the second edition Necromunda sculpts. These models are from a really awkward phase of Games Workshop's model development. These are multi-part metals, which are quite posable and stuff, but also metal. They were really kind of difficult to build and put together and get to stay together. I think I've got a set of these somewhere. I don't know if I have all the different options and accessories for them, but I definitely have a set of these somewhere as well. So what is an Arbite for people who may not know? Basically, the Arbites are the space FBI. People often say they're the space police, which isn't quite true. They are definitely kind of the best analogy would be that the federal level, so they can move from planet to planet. They only really they enforce the imperial law, right? The things that apply equally to every planet in the Imperium. What you've got to remember is that a lot of these planets, you can have a planetary governor, and the planetary governor says, right, it's a law that no one except for my family are allowed to wear yellow, and that can be a law on that planet, right? And that can be a law that's enforced by his men, right, his enforcers, who are allowed to wear yellow, that's the governor's colour, and nobody else is allowed to wear yellow on that planet. And that is because 40k, they do not have a standard blueprint for, these different planets. They are planets. They have totally different cultures. The Arbites sit above that, and they enforce the imperial law, which is like, largely, don't be a psyker, pay your taxes, don't plot against the emperor, things like that. They also have authority over planetary governors, right? It's a bit of a it's an interesting and a power struggle thing, but in theory, an Arbites could arrest the planetary governor. Now, if they could, because there might only be like 25 arbiters in their kind of fortress precinct, whereas the planetary governor's got whole loads of people that he's raised up and things like that, and there's always kind of real politic in 40k as well. But in theory, they are answerable. The head of the Adeptus Arbites is one of the High Lords of Terror. And they're almost like Inquisitors in that way. Obviously, Inquisitors outrank the Arbites, but they almost have that same kind of role of oversight. The thing is they couldn't interfere with Sisters of Battle or Space Marines or other things of that order, but they outrank all the kind of common they are adepts, right? So the easy way of working out things in 40k is if someone has if someone is an adept, if they have that Adeptus, so you got Adeptus Arbites, Adeptus Astartes, Adeptus Sororitas, those are kind of it's like a class system, right? Those different things are kind of a peer of each other, so they couldn't really interfere with each other's stuff, but they have total jurisdiction over politicians and planetary governors and things like that. Now, it gets a bit weird with the ecclesiarchy. Could the Arbites arrest a preacher who was preaching something that didn't quite line up with, or it's almost like you got that kind of medieval thing where the church has its own justice system and things like that, but that is where they sit. So it doesn't seem strange to me that they will be going into a Space Hulk, because the Arbites do have their own, unlike the Imperial Guard, the Arbites actually have their own space fleet. They don't rely on the Imperial Navy for transport. They have their own small little selection of ships that are crewed by their own staff. And they could easily, if it was part of their investigations, if they were hunting down a fugitive, or they were investigating a serious crime, maybe an important imperial bureaucrat had been murdered, or the tax take was down, or something like that, they could totally go on ship and board the Space Hulk and that kind of thing. Obviously, as with all things in 40k and Kill Team and everything else, when you then end up going, well, I'm playing Arbites, and the person across the table from you goes, cool, I'm playing Navy Breaches, or cool, I'm playing very loyal Dark Angel Space Marines, or whatever it is, you have to kind of come up with your own, well, why are these? Obviously, somebody's not quite got the right information, but that is what the Arbites are, and I don't think there's a lore problem with them showing up in Kill Team. People confuse them, I think, with the Necromunda Enforcers. I'll touch on those more at the end. So, a couple of other little wrinkles. These were the 2nd edition Arbites, these 4 sculpts. Now, people often think of these guys. These were conversions. These were from... It was a book called Battles in the Underhive. White Dwarf presents Battles in the Underhive. And these were converted by Mike McVeigh, who probably needs no introduction. Mike McVeigh converted these Adeptus Arbites models into a shock troop team armed with power mauls and suppression shields. They're ideal for mob control and fighting in close combat. So you got these shield guys, and then this was finally realised in this team you got one shield guy. People really love the look of them with the riot shields, and I noticed the one that we got as a silhouette is a riot shield guy. Now, big question mark in my mind over whether that'll be one shield specialist or whether we'll be able to have a whole squad of shield guys. Let's just look over the page. So here we got some rules. The ones in blue are from 1st edition Necromunda when it was the 90s and we were still allowed colours. And then the ones in black and white here are from the slightly edgier sort of 2000s Necromunda 2nd edition, which was... It was like largely the same game, but it was just slightly different. So let's look at these first. We've got the Arbites Patrol Team. So there's your Proctor, like I was saying. So there's that word Proctor and Judges. Now, the the Arbiters will not be called judges. I guarantee it in Kill Team that, because this is there's a Judge Dredd miniatures game which is currently with Warlord Games, which is a lot of ex-Games Workshop employees. Arbites, certainly originally in the 90s, were very clearly just Judge Dredd, just borrowed. So in all these blue boxes, you're going to see that word Judge, I guarantee. Already by the early 2000s, that word was gone from the pros here, and we talk about Sergeants and Enforcers. But yeah, so Proctor and Judges. So an Arbites Patrol team consists of 4 Judges and 1 Proctor. The Proctor and the Judges are armed with bolt pistols and choke grenades. They've got more weapons than that, just bear with me. This is the way the old rulebooks in the 90s used to be worded. So they're armed as a default with bolt pistols and choke grenades. And they have Carapace armor, which is a 4-up save. They have a respirator, a photo visor, and infra goggles. Necromunda equipment, don't worry about it so much. The Arbites do not suffer any initiative modifiers for wearing Carapace armor, because that used to be a thing, because they've been changing its use since childhood. Any model in the squad may be equipped with a bolt gun for 35 credits or an Arbites combat shotgun for 30 credits. So you've got the option of a bolter or a shotgun on your basic Arbites. And then one of them can have a grenade launcher. Okay, and then your grenade launcher can have frag or crack grenades bought for it, and also you've got choke grenades that go in the grenade launcher. And then we're going to talk about skills and ammo, which is Necromunda stuff that we don't need to concern ourselves with. We're trying to just look at what's gone before and see what, because this is exactly how Games Workshop will do it. They will sit down, they'll go into the archives, they'll get all the stuff, they go, what have we already written about Arbites? And that will be their starting point. We're just trying to follow their design process in reverse. And then we got the Arbite Shock Troops team, which is in the same publication. So this is a Proctor and Shock Troops. So 4 Shock Troops and 1 Proctor. The Proctor and the Shock Troops are all armed with a power maul, suppression shields, and choke grenades. So these are the close combat guys. They've got a shield and they've got power mauls. They've got carapace armor again, helmet, respirator, photo visor, infra goggles, no initiative modifiers. They can be equipped with scare grenades, which was a great thing, where it was literally a gas grenade that made you run in fear when you inhaled the gas. And the skills and ammo thing we don't need to worry about. So that was where we started with Arbites. So you got dudes in carapace armor. This was, at the time anyway, a very standard sort of human stat line, okay, for an Imperial Guardsman or anything else. And then you can see that the Sergeant got extra weapon skill and ballistic skill, an extra point of initiative, and an extra point of leadership. Obviously, in Kill Team, we'd expect to see the extra point of weapon skill and ballistic skill, and an extra wound, because that's Kill Team, so much more granular. But this was old 2nd edition 40k, where having more than 1 wound was really weird. Okay, so then we got the Enforcer Precinct Squad. So this was the evolution on the idea that they had from this was the early 2000s now, and you see that they brought in the Cyber Mastiff and the Handler. I just want to go back because I forgot to mention it. Really, if you look at these models, so this is the sort of early 2000s metal ones, and you see the Cyber Mastiff there. Forge World did do this cool show-only model here of a Cyber Mastiff and an Arbites Handler. I think I have all the models on this slide somewhere in my house. It'll be great to see if I can use them in real Kill Team. But the Cyber Mastiff did kind of come in at this point. So now it's a Sergeant, 8 Enforcers, a Cyber Mastiff, and a Handler. So it's 10 men and a dog, which I think is where we're going to stay for the Kill Team, potentially. The Sergeant and the Enforcers and the Handler are armed with a knife, a bolt pistol, and choke gas grenades. The Cyber Mastiff is armed with its teeth. Any member of the squad may replace their bolt pistol with a las pistol. Why would you? And the Sergeant may replace his bolt pistol with a plaza pistol if desired. So now we've got a plaza pistol option for the Sergeant. In addition, each member of the squad may be armed with one of the sets of weapons from the following list. Equipment may not be changed during the campaign. One member of the squad may carry a heavy stubber. So that's this. So just like Chaos Cultists have a heavy stubber, you can have an Arbite with a heavy stubber. One member of the squad can have a flamer or plasma gun or grenade launcher equipped with choke, frag, and crack grenades. Any member of the squad may be armed with a bolt gun or a combat shotgun, or a power maul and a suppression shield. So you see those 3 loadouts now for the basic guys. You can have the suppression shield, the combat shotgun, or the bolter. Okay. Any model can replace their bolt pistol with a power maul and suppression shield. Now this bullet point never made any sense, even back in the day as a kid, because if they all had bolt pistols, so in theory they could all have power mauls and suppression shields and combat shotguns. Obviously, it doesn't mean that. What people wanted to do, basically, it's for making your Sergeant with a power maul and a pistol, and he doesn't have a shield on the model, and then some people would model on the shield because he should have a shield, and it got a bit confusing. But the way I read this is that you can just technically in the rules, the Sergeant replaces bolt pistol for a plasma pistol, and then the Sergeant can replace his bolt pistol for a power maul and suppression shield. Like, how did you actually build this model with a power maul and pistol and no shield? You didn't, but the rules were not tightly written in the early 2000s. Any member can be armed with melter bombs and photon flashfire grenades, fine, and they've got carapace armor, including the Cyber Mastiff, respirator, photo visor, infra goggles, blah, 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 right? So those are the old rules. So now let's go on to speculation. Here's what I think they're going to do in Kill Team. And I've got a few pages of this, so buckle up. I think that the basic Arbite is going to be, now this is a very standard stat line, move 3, APL 2, GA 1, defense 3, a save of 4 up with wounds of 7. And I've put weapon skill B. I don't actually think that at all. I don't know why I wrote that. That might have been wishful thinking. I think they're going to be weapon skill BS 4 up as standard, to be fair. Right? As much as WS and BS is a stat in this game, right? You guys are with me. You follow the channel. You know what I mean by having a weapon skill, resist skill stat. They're like hidden core stat will be 4, and there'll be all sorts of modifiers on that. And we know in Kill Team the stats are actually listed on the weapon, but just have that in mind that I think they're a 4-up team, kind of notionally, and then we'll have modifiers for different things. I think the Proctor Exactum will get a pretty standard 1 wound. Oh, sorry. They'll be armed with a shotgun or a bolter. Your choice. The Proctor Exactum will have an extra wound and an extra weapon skill and ballistic skill, logically. They'll probably give you the options of having a shotgun or a bolter that you probably won't take, but I imagine that the kit will let you do that for 40k. And then you'll probably be armed with a bolt pistol and a power maul. I really hope, actually, like, as much as the option of letting you pick between a plasma pistol and a weak combat weapon, or a bolt pistol and a strong combat weapon, is good for the game, I really hope for the Arbites, like, he should come with a power maul is just so iconic. And it will break my heart if it's like, oh, well, yeah, you can have a bolt pistol and a power maul, or a plasma pistol and, like, a chainsaw, because the power maul is the iconic Arbites weapon. And people, but if you want to win the game, you want to take the plasma pistol. I just really hope they let your leader have if they have a I would rather they didn't have the plasma pistol option, right? And I could give them the classic bolt pistol and power maul and feel good about myself. If the option is there to have a plasma pistol and a power maul, then that's good gravy. If you have to choose between the plasma pistol and a power maul, that's slightly depressing, right? So again, you'll have 2 gunners. Or I'm not sure how they'll go with this. So I actually think they'll give you the 2 gunner options between a plasma, a flamer, and a grenade launcher. You pick any 2, right? They might decide to bring it back to heavy stubber. I always thought, for me, the heavy stubber never really fitted the grenade launcher for me is the iconic Arbites special weapon, right? If they bring in the heavy stubber, you'll have a heavy gunner with a heavy stubber, and then you have to pick 1 plasma flamer or grenade launcher. And just like with the plasma pistol, everybody will feel like they have to pick plasma if they want to do reasonably well competitively. It would be a shame not to see the grenade launcher in Arbites teams again, because it's just such an iconic Arbites weapon. Yeah, so I kind of hope to see 2 gunners, so people can be like, well, I'll take a plasma and a grenade launcher, and then maybe swap in a flamer for Into the Dark. I think that's fine. I've not included Melter just because the old metal multi-part kit here didn't have a melter gun in it, right? So, and they never kind of have to take on tanks, so Melter doesn't really fit. But, you know, to be honest, you could lose the plasma and the flamer options as far as I'm concerned, and you just have a gunner as your grenade launcher, but there needs to be a bit more there to be competitive with other teams. The one I'm really keen should be there is the grenade launcher. Then you've got your shock troop option with your power maul and your suppression shield. So we know this is coming because this is the silhouette that we've seen. A question in my mind is, will they let you take multiples with power maul and suppression shield? Because if we look back here, you know, it wasn't one guy. I know in the box you have only got 1, and loads of people hunted down these extra sprues to field whole squads with the shock, with the right shields. Because if you've ever seen actual riot police, you know, you don't just get 1 guy with a shield and then all his mates. The nice thing is you get the whole line of them all with the shields. So I do wonder whether you'll be able to take multiples with the shields. That would be cool. In my ideal world, the box would allow you to field 10 men with shields, 10 men with bolters, and 10 men with shotguns. Potentially that's a lot of plastic, right? But it would be nice to have the option of doing, you know, 10 with shields, 10 with bolters, 10 with shotguns, and then plus any extra specialists or special weapons on top of that. Cyber Mastiff Handler. So I guess this is similar to the Navis Surveyor. Like, I noticed that in the Forge World version of this he's got like an Auspex as well, and his power maul along with his dog. So he could have, it would be very similar to the Navis Severe, I'm not going to lie. It would be fluffed as like hunting down a perpetrator. He could maybe have the comms type option and those kinds of abilities. Maybe he's got a power maul as well and a bolt pistol like the Forge World guy. Maybe he's just got a standard shotgun like the Navis Severe does that doesn't deviate that much from what the standard guy has. And then the Cyber Mastiff, I would just assume you're going to get like essentially the same as the Star Strider Canid. But I would expect to see a 4-up save because he's made of metal. It's a metal dog. It's got to be a bit hardier than a dog made of dog because it's a dog made of metal. More speculation. So one thing that you'll be screaming at the screen as I went through the first side is how do you make a shotgun an attractive choice compared to a bolter? The shotgun is iconic. Again, if you want to look like Arbites, it's the shotgun that you want to see. Well, here comes your answer. So special rules. Basically, in Necromunda, shotguns were really versatile. They had loads of different weapons. There were these three. There was also bolt shells, inferno shells, manstopper shells. Necromunda really had a thing for shotguns. The Arbites had some unique shotgun ammo called the Executioner shell. So it says here, special rules. See the Necromunda handbook for rules on scatter shots. Executioner rounds lock onto a target's energy signature and so may even be fired at hidden targets. The Executioner round is unusual that it receives +1 to hit modifier at long range and a -1 to hit modifier at short range. This is because the shell's tiny brain cannot lock onto its target until it's travelled several meters. So you had these two standard ones that came with every shotgun. At long range, you were doing 4 damage with -1 to hit, and at short range, you were doing 3 damage, but with +1 to hit. And also, I think you got a little blast template with your scatter shell back in the day. The Executioner shell is -1 to hit short, 4 up to hit long, 4 strength, and a -2 save modifier. Now, back in the day, 2nd edition rules, -2 save modifier basically would mean that your save was 2 worse. So if you had a 3-up save with a -2 save modifier, you had a 5-up save. If you had a 5-up save, -2 save modifier, you had no save. If you had a 4-up save, -2 save modifier, you had a 6-up save. So I think the most likely thing they'll do with the Arbites Combat Shotgun is to give it 4 dice BS4, 2-3 damage at close range, and 4 dice BS3, 2-3 damage at long range. I've given 2-3 rather than 3-3 because 2-3 is what they've given the solid slug option in the war gear for the Navis. So obviously, yes, the standard shotgun in Kill Team is 3-3, but it's short range only. So I've to compensate for that, it's not short range only, that it's not a kind of a buckshot, a blasting shot. We give it 2-3, and then you get that +1 BS at long range to make it a BS3. Obviously, you'd have a rule saying that you have to use the close range profile if the target is within red. And then your bolter would be a 4 dice BS4, 3-4. So your bolter would get you +1 damage, but you'd be BS4 at all times, rather than getting to go to BS3 at long range. So that would make it an actual choice between which one you wanted. Paradoxically, it would mean that bolters would be better for Into the Dark, right? Where you're more likely to be within red, and the Executioner shotgun would be better in open boards, where you're more likely to have more long-range shooting. I think that would be quite interesting. Obviously, there's things they could do to make the Executioner shotgun even better. You could give it Piercing 1 to represent this -2 save modifier, right? You could even give it some kind of ability to target things that are obscured or on conceal or something like that, because of this line here about it can be fired at hidden targets. But I think if you do either of those things, you make it an auto take. I think what I'm trying to do is put it somewhere where it's like, well, should I take the bolter or should I take the shotgun? Will they concern themselves by that? I don't know. I don't know. But that's what kind of my prediction there with the shotgun. So other things we kind of know. So power mauls, these have been used before. Sisters have a power maul option in the compendium. So power maul will be 4 dice hitting on 4s, 4-5 damage with stun. Might they give Arbites a base weapon skill of 3+, and a base specific skill of 4+, just to represent their kind of brutality and directness? Like, I could see Arbites coming up with a weapon skill of 3+, potentially. The shield would obviously have the double parry rule that both of the shields we've already got in the game have, the one on the Navis and the one on the Bloodied. As to what else it would do, that is really anyone's guess, because again, the Navis and the Bloodied shields are quite different. We've also got to think about the choke gas grenades, which is basically space tear gas, a really important part, I think, of Arbiters. So I would guess they're equipment points, because Games Workshop needs to put something in the equipment table. I increasingly don't like equipment points as a mechanic, because they increasingly don't feel like choices. They feel like these are the equipment. This is the equipment that you take with this team, every time. They especially love doing this for heavy weapons, oh, here's my heavy bolter, and here's the thing that makes it usable. Or here's my Harlequin sniper guy, and here's the thing that makes it usable. So, yeah, this would be a big incentive set of grenade launching. You penny 3 equipment points, or whatever it is, to get your extra grenade for your grenade launcher. I mean, he would still have frag and crack as well, but I would just give him this as an option, because it's so iconic. And I imagine this would put down an area of gas like a smoke grenade, so you put down a marker and you measure within circle of the marker, and then the cool people would get a little circle template for their choke gas, and then that would be like a debuffing gas, I think, something like -1 APL if you move through the gas. I think that would be pretty cool. And then you can make the Arbites themselves immune to it, because they have all that respirator tech in their helmet. Now, I know as soon as you say that, people go, well, what about Space Marines? What about they? Shouldn't they be immune to it? Blah, blah. You've got to abstract some of these things. Yeah, in fairness, Space Marines of any kind should also be immune to it. Necrons should be immune to it because they're machines, Thousand Suns should be immune to it, blah, blah, blah. But I think that's quite cool. Choke gas, that'd be cool. I think the box will be 10 plus the dog in the box, so you get like Crew did. But you might not get, you might have to choose between the dog and an extra shotgun man. We'll have to see. And there is obviously room for them to invent new kind of specialists. So there's obviously a gap there for a sort of detective, investigator, hacker, operator. They have these things in the Adeptus Arbites. I've forgotten the kind of Latinate name that they've given them, but there's that kind of more detective-y kind of aspect to it, as well as the kind of just straight up Judge Dredd kind of character. There's also the kind of more thinking cop kind of detective-y kind of character, and they have a Latin name which I've totally forgotten, Investigatorius or something like that. A medic is also very possible, just because it's a standard thing. They could slam a medic in there, because we haven't really got enough. If you've got your leader and your dog handler, and then the dog, and then 2 gunners, or a heavy gunner and a gunner. And then potentially a shield guy if it's a specialist, but it might just be a loadout for your basic troops. There's room for 1 or 2 more specialists, and I'm sure they will invent some stuff. But this is as far as my kind of ruminations take me on the subject. So final thoughts. I'd love to know your verdict on my speculation. Is there anything that I've obviously missed? In this thing that they had this, and they should clearly bring that, and they should do this, and they should do that. Please let me know down the bottom. I have deliberately not mentioned the Palanite Enforcers for Necromunda 3rd edition, because they are kind of a sideways evolution to the Arbites. I've had conversations about this very topic some years ago now with Andy Hoare, who's the lead developer for specialist games and stuff, and it is very clear to me that they were who knows how long these plastic Arbites have been sitting in Nottingham waiting for their moment to be released, because it's been very clear from the start of Necromunda, they've been told, no, you're not doing Arbites. We, the main Warhammer 40k studio, we want to keep control of that element of the IP, so you can do the local law enforcement, the Palanite Enforcers, and they can be very similar to Arbites in a lot of ways, but they are not Adeptus Arbites. We are over here, we're keeping hold of Adeptus Arbites for this. This is the payoff of not getting Arbites properly for Necromunda, right? This is now we're going to get Games Workshop 40k Studio Arbites. So I've not really looked at the Palanite Enforcers. If you briefly, I know they offer sniper rifles and assault rams. Those are both things. Assault ram could be a really cool specialist for the Arbites and kill team, something to give you a bonus for opening doors, or maybe making holes. But again, we're just reinventing the Navis now if we talk about making holes in things. But snipers as well is an option that the Palanite Enforcers had, that they could bring back to an Adeptus Arbite range, potentially. One thing I'm really keen to see is female head and torso options in the new kit. Like, 40k is full of, you've got the Space Marines, famously, they're all male. You've got the Stormtrooper, not Stormtroopers, the Militarum Tempestus, who are all male. You've got the Sororitas, who are all female. You've got quite a lot of different groups that are gender kind of specified. The Arbites, I know the Guard have mixed regiments as well, but the Arbites are, I think I'm right in saying, correct me if I'm wrong, the Arbites are the only kind of mixed gender Adeptus. Like, well, okay, the Adeptus Mechanicus, but at that point, can you really tell, like, what gender is a tech priest? Like, but I think the Adeptus Arbites are the only kind of mixed gender adepts. Well, the fighting adepts, right? So it would be cool for them to make sure that they represent that. I'm not one of these people that wants them to go back and change the established law to have. Dare I even utter the words female Space Marines? I'm not a fan of the idea of female Space Marines for all kinds of reasons I don't want to get into. And I love Sisters of Battle. I think they're great and everything else. But I do think where the law actually already says, hey, they're like this, that I definitely want to see female heads and torsos in that box set. That'd be really cool. Not least because the reason I put this on the screen, I really like the sheer Calpurnica novels, 3-book. I think I've got this. I've got the omnibus. I think technically originally it was 3 novels. They're really good. If you are wanting some Adeptus Arbites fiction to get you in the mood for this upcoming release, I really enjoyed these novels. I thought they were really, very good. I'm already thinking that I could just one of the new plastic Arbites when we see them, and then maybe a head from like the Escher sprue somewhere, to make my own little. I mean, if anybody's listening from Games Workshop, when they do the Black Library annual miniature from a Black Library novel, like, it would be great to do. Obviously, they will only do that if he writes another book, like, which is unlikely. But still, I think she's a badass. And I think that's a cool character. So yeah, I'm really excited for the Arbites from a modelling and painting perspective. I really want to have a squad of Arbites. I think that'd be really cool. But I have to admit, like, if they are bent on fleshing out this Imperial Agents idea with Kill Team, which is really cool from a narrative point of view. Is it what Kill Team needs from a mechanical game playing point of view? And I know there are people out there who love Orcs, who don't love the Imperium, who love the other parts of 40k. I am an Imperium. I love the Imperium, so I'm not going to be upset. I love the non-Space Marine Imperium is my favourite part of 40k. So when people say, "Oh, what do you want? Like, what would be your dream team?" Like, I really want to see. I mean, I want to see a bespoke Sisters of Battle team that's based on the actual Battle Sisters, like an update of their compendium team that isn't the Vitiates. That would be cool. I would love to see a new AdMech team that was based around actual rather than Skitarii regiments, like actual tech priest explorators. So you could have like an elite team of like 6 or so different tech priests that were hunting down an STC or doing something, maybe with like one robot guy or something like that. I think that would be really cool. Like, weird oddball Imperial teams are what I actually want, so I'm really quite thrilled. I'm not deaf to the people who are like, I want a bespoke Tyranid team. You should have, especially the Tyranid players and especially the Death Guard players. They do need some kind of bespoke team. I get it, but I think this is really cool. Yeah, so please do give me some hate for that as well if you're a Tyranid player. Like, how dare you celebrate the release of another Imperial human team for Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team? We desperately need a Tyranid team because Tyranids are great for some reason. Sure, you do you. But while you're leaving your comments, please do also like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you enjoy the video and want more videos in this style. And if you really like me, consider supporting me financially by joining the channel with the channel membership button. If you click that button, there's a whole extra video there that gives you the whole pitch for channel membership, so do check that out as well. It's not on the slide, but join the Discord. Discord's getting better and better every day. Yeah, and I hope you're having a great where are we? The 4th of January. Yeah, so I hope you're having a great start to the year. Bye-bye, guys. Have a great day. Cheerio.